I am James Bernard Christian, Senior. I'm a graduate of the class of 1966, and I'm certainly deeply grateful and proud to be here at this all-classes reunion on our 50th reunion anniversary.
We are delighted that you all have joined us tonight in celebration of our 11th biannual reunion of the Bunkie Colored Carver High School. Thank you for joining us tonight, and might I add, you all look absolutely marvelous. Sherry is a retired assistant chief of police from the Houston Police Department, and also a member of the class of 1971.
Good evening to everyone. I'm Jerry Jones. I give honor and thanks to God for enabling me to attend another spectacular school reunion. I am privileged to have the opportunity to introduce our speaker for this very special occasion, Evelyn Jones. I know Evelyn very well. She's my classmate, she's a lifetime friend, and most of all, she is my fellow sister in Christ Jesus. Evelyn has many outstanding personal qualities. She is an excellent role model. She is a persistent achiever, and she is caring and good-hearted. Evelyn is also a real times, Evelyn has a very colorful sense of humor. In essence, Evelyn is truly a genuine classic winner. Evelyn Rose Styles Jones is the youngest of 7 children born to the union of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Styles Jr. Evelyn was reared here in Bunkie and attended Carver High School for 11 years. Evelyn also attended Bunkie High School, where she completed her senior year and graduated in 1971. In 1971, she enrolled at Grambling State University and graduated in 1975 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Office Administration. Evelyn relocated to Houston, Texas, and became an administrative secretary where she worked in the oil, gas, and banking industries for 19 years. She received an associate degree in legal assistant technology from Houston Community College in 1992. In 1994, Evelyn returned home to Bunkie and became caretaker for her parents. Evelyn is presently employed as a legal secretary for the Louisiana Department of Justice, Attorney General Civil Litigation Division Office in Alexandria. She has been employed there for 16 years. However, Evelyn has 20 years of tenure as a legal secretary. Evelyn is also a member of the class of 1971 African American Memorial Scholarship Fund Committee, where she keenly served as treasurer. The committee has given scholarships to African American seniors at Bunkie High School for the past 9 years. She is a faithful member of Second Union Baptist Church in Bunkie, where she serves as a member of the Usher and Mission Ministries. Evelyn is also a proud aunt to 3 nephews and 3 nieces. Evelyn, we want you to know that we love you and we are very proud of you. We pray that God will bless you and keep you as you pursue the work that He leads you to do. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our speaker, Evelyn Jones.
Good evening, classmates. Good evening. Schoolmates, family and friends, and special guests, Mayor Pro Tem Greg Pruitt, and all of our guests and alumni seated on stage. Welcome to the Bunkie Colored Carver High 11th School Reunion Banquet. We hope that you are enjoying yourselves, that you are enjoying your meal with your classmates, schoolmates, family, and friends. I want to thank my classmate Jerry Jones for that introduction. I am truly honored to have been chosen and selected as your speaker for this wonderful occasion. I want to focus on our theme for this year's reunion, celebrating the victories of the past with hope for the future. The 2014 reunion, as you know, is dedicated to our beloved parents for their unconditional love and support. We appreciate our parents for having given us the chance to prove and improve ourselves through all walks of life. It is because of their love and support that we were able to achieve our goals and fulfill some of our dreams. It is because of our parents that we have become teachers, teachers' aides, professors, lawyers, doctors, nurses, engineers, chemists, researchers, technicians, secretaries, sales associates, politicians, medical assistants, blue-collar workers, ministers, school principals, social workers, corporate administrators, administrators and department heads in higher education, Marriages are the white-collar professions, and most of all, Christians. It is because of our parents that we have tried to instill these strong Christian values in our children and grandchildren. Part of passing the torch means teaching our children and grandchildren to have strong Christian values. And I certainly think that would definitely be a part of raising children. Without having faith and believing in God and our Savior, Jesus Christ, there is no way we would have made it as a people. Our parents were particular about the methods they used to raise us, making sure that our behavior was no more than exceptional in any environment we were in. Occasional whippings didn't kill us either, but they actually made us better human beings. Not only did our parents whip us, but so did our grandparents and our teachers. We respected all of them to the highest, the sort of respect that somehow doesn't exist today. All of our households didn't include fathers back then. They consisted of extended family, with the grandparents, great-grandparents, and our uncles and aunts helping to raise the children. And this method worked just as well as having a father in the house. Our grandparents, great-grandparents, and our uncles and aunts were on the job teaching us right from wrong. Some of us made it without fathers in the house and turned out beautiful. It shows us again how strong our parents were and how they were able to maintain without fathers in the home. But we're living in a different time now, and we need fathers too. Our parents raised us with very little means, always finding a way to provide for us, raising at least 7 and 8 children in one family. We were raised during some of the most turbulent times in our country's history, but our parents were able to maintain our families, most times protecting us from any danger or harm. The old saying, "It takes a village," truly applied to raising children in those days, because our parents protected and helped to raise each other's children. We were taught to respect our elders, to listen to our teachers, pastors, and any adult who had our best interests at heart. The way that it was done back in the day, the entire neighborhood had a role in our upbringing. Neighbors, elders, and family and friends felt very comfortable chastising us and telling us what to do. They knew that we knew that there would be more trouble if we went home and complained about another adult telling us what to do. I know we can all remember those days because I certainly do. And I am truly grateful that we all benefited from that way of life back then. I think our parents did such a great job. The evidence is here. We turned out to be exceptional individuals. Our parents did a beautiful job despite the hard times they endured, despite all the obstacles that stood in their way. They didn't have handbooks. They didn't take us to psychologists. There was no medication to put us on. They didn't use the time-out method. They didn't even knock on our doors to enter our rooms. They simply entered the room. There were rooms in our homes for all the children to follow. That included stepchildren, cousins, and grandchildren. Whoever was being raised in the house at that time had to follow the rules. It was the little things that made a huge impact in our lives and helped to make us the persons that we are today. The little things that shaped our character and shaped us as the people and persons that we have become. For example, little things. I can remember growing up in Second Union Baptist Church. I would say 11, 12, and 13. And my mother always had me sit. I was sitting with my friends. By that time, I was old enough to sit with my friends. And my mother made me sit where she could see me, because you know how kids are. And if me and my friends would misbehave, she would give me that look. And I knew what that look meant. That meant that I couldn't say another word. stay focused on what was happening in the service at the time, or at least pretend as if I were. And to this day, I find myself not looking back when the ushers let people in the church. That tells me that my mother is still teaching me from the grave. I couldn't put any gum in my mouth. I couldn't put any candy in my mouth. I couldn't pretend as if I had to use the restroom. That was no walking in church. The little things that shaped us and made us who we are today. Another thing I was taught was to always say thank you when somebody did something for me. When I came back to Bunkie, I was a caretaker for my parents. My dad only lived 1 year after I returned, and my mother lived another 13 or so. And in her senior years, I was taking care of her. And she would always say thank you for every little thing. I said, Mom, you don't have to say thank you all the time. I'm your daughter. I'm going to take care of you regardless. And she said, but you don't have to. No one has to do anything for you, not even you for me. And I want you to always say thank you. And say hello to people and ask them how they're doing. You never know how you're going to leave this world. You never know who's going to have to do something for you. You never know who's going to have to bring you a tall glass of water. So you got to treat people right. You have to do that. That's very important. In my adult years, she's still telling me things like, little things like when people come to your house and they're leaving and they get in the car to drive off, do not close the door. Do not walk away from the door. Don't close it until they get in the car and they drive off. Then you can close the door and say goodbye to them. She said that was impolite to do that. And to this day, I'm still remembering that she told me that. The little things that make such a big difference. It may not seem like it's a big deal, but it is. And it means a lot to me. When I first moved back from Texas, when I would come in from work, she would be sitting in the living room when I came home. And my neighbors would be sitting outside on the porch. And I would always speak to them because I hadn't seen them all day. When I walked in the house, she would be waiting for me. Did you speak? I said, yeah, I spoke to them. She said, I didn't hear you. And I want you to always speak to people and ask people how they're doing. And I notice younger people these days, you know, we're kind of considered the older generation now. When you see young people now, they don't do what we do. We speak to people no matter what age they are, even if we don't know them. But elderly people, it seems as though they turn their head before you get to them so they won't have to speak to you. And I thought to myself, we were not raised that way. This is definitely a different time. I would think that it would be hard to raise 7 to 10 children in one family, 7 different personalities, raising that many children on meager incomes and doing it all during some of the most difficult times our country has ever seen. But we made it, and we did it sticking together as families. Most of us are baby boomers and grew up during hard times. We know what it means to do without. We know what it means to share with 5 and 6 other siblings. We know what it means to get one toy for Christmas, and some of us didn't get any. We know what it means to wear hand-me-down clothes. We know what it means to make dolls or coat bottles and use jump rope for their hair. We know what it means to make popcorns and shoot China dolls. We know what it means to take wood and make stilts. We know what it means to take basketball rims and nail them on trees so we can play basketball. We know what it means to sit in automobile tires and have our friends push us down the street. And we knew what it meant to go get the sugar cane from the sugar cane trucks across the track and eat the best sugar cane on the planet. But you know, through it all, we were still happy children. We didn't really know how poor we really were. You know why? Because our parents loved and protected us so much. And I know some of us sitting in this room tonight wondering if we could have done what they did with so little. Our parents supported us and taught us so many things, political and cultural. I my dad. And we watched the 5:30 news some evenings, Chet Huntley and David Brenner. My dad loved politics. My papa loved to keep up with the current events, and especially current events in the Black community, and a lot was going on in the turbulent 1960s. So he kept the news on every day. I remember him calling people to vote. He realized how long it took to pass the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And by that time, my papa was 55 years old. And for the first time in his life, he could vote. I remember in 1972, I was 19 years old and a sophomore at Grambling State University. And my parents sent me the voter registration absentee paperwork so that I could vote absentee. I voted for the first time in my life in the 1972 presidential election. And since then, I haven't missed a beat because they taught me how important it is to vote. We must teach our children and grandchildren how important it is to vote and how long it took us to reach that milestone. How important it is for us to vote not only in presidential elections, but in midterm elections. And we have one coming up in November. And let's remember to teach our children and grandchildren how important it is. Most of our generations, us baby boomers, were the first generation of our people that had at least 2 to 3 children in the same family graduating from high school and college. We were the first generation of our people who were able to give our kids more than we had. Let us also be that generation, along with others before us who are still alive today, to teach our children and grandchildren what our parents taught us. It is our duty and responsibility to pass the torch. And I realize the world is a different place, and it's a little more difficult to raise children now. But some things should never change, like morals and values and respecting your elders, loving your siblings and sticking together as families should, being there for one another in time of need, treating people right, knowing and owning responsibility, and having faith in God, and studying and living by the teachings of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because in John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. All of our reunions have had a theme, and it's good for us to get together and have a good time and enjoy our classmates and schoolmates, family and friends, and some of us haven't seen each other in a long time. I saw one of my schoolmates yesterday that I hadn't seen in 46 years. So you can't even put a price on this. But it is also important that we remember the theme of our reunions. All of them have a theme. It is important that we apply it to our everyday lives. This year, it is important that we remember to celebrate the victories of the past with hope for the future. Part of celebrating the victories of the past is cherishing our parents' legacy. One of the victories they achieved was the fine job they did in raising their children. No one could have done it any better. Hope for the future is passing the torch to our children and grandchildren and praying that they will pass it on to future generations of our people and that this will continue as long as we live. We must never forget where we came from, and we must be proud of where we came from. We must pass the torch to our children and grandchildren, teaching them our history, telling them about the things we experienced growing up in Bunkie in the turbulent 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement, and what it was like growing up in Bunkie in the 1940s and 1950s. We must teach that to our children. They must know their history. Teaching them their history will make them appreciate who they are. Because if they know where they came from, they'll know where they ought to be going. This is what our parents did for us. My papa would have center stage telling us the events of his childhood and what it was like growing up as a young man. And my mother also educated us on how things were when she grew up. My papa was born in 1910, and my mother was born in 1917. So you know there was a lot of history to share with us, and your parents, I'm sure, did the same thing. holding on and remembering everything our parents taught us is part of the very reason for our existence. And it's the very reason why we struggle to keep our family structure intact. Sometimes before you attempt to make a decision right now, you still think about what your parents taught you, what they would say. And that means they're still teaching us from the grave for those of us whose parents have passed on. For those of you whose parents are still alive, cherish every moment you spend with them. Give them their flowers now because they're so deserving of it. The world is truly a different place without them in it. Holding on and practicing what they taught us keeps the legacy alive. Let us pray to God and ask that He order our steps, to walk in the footsteps of our parents, to do an excellent job, just as our parents did, in teaching our children and grandchildren to be the best they can be in every aspect of their lives. To pray that we will be a blessing to them, just as our parents were and are to us. And so, my classmates, schoolmates, family, and friends, don't you feel blessed to have grown up when you did? Don't you feel blessed that our culture is still intact during that time? Don't you feel blessed that it takes a village to alive and well and function during those days? Everybody in the neighborhood helped to raise us, helped to protect us, and steer us in the right direction. And for those of you who are raising extended families, don't you feel blessed that grandmama and grandpa and your uncles and aunts helped to raise you and steer you in the right direction? I always tell my friends and my family that I'm so grateful that I was raised when I was. We are shining examples of old-fashioned morals and values. Some of those same morals and values can be applied today to raise our children and grandchildren. And please remember this, that no matter who you meet and what relationships you develop in your life, no one, and I mean no one, will ever love you like your parents. Except God and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. We are so grateful to our parents for all they did for us. Their sacrifices were deep and profound. We can never repay them. We stand on their shoulders. We must cherish them and love them forever because we are who we are because of them. Thank you.
We need to honor our veterans who sacrificed so much that we may enjoy the freedoms we have today. And also remember our active military men and women. Encourage support of federal and state legislators who actively pursue legislation that positively impacts our nation's veterans. We must remember our veterans. Thank you again for that tribute. And thank you to our veterans for present here tonight. Mr. Charles Warner will bring introductions for our speaker of the evening. I'm reminded of the class of 1966, celebrating our legacy with pride.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the speaker of the evening, who is my classmate, my friend. When I was asked to do this, I assumed that it might take a brief moment. Then I got his resume and his bio, and suddenly I figured I might be up here for at least 30 minutes. However, I'm going to spare you that. I'll only summarize some of his accomplishments, and then I'll yield the remainder of that time to our speaker. First of all, he was valedictorian of the class of 66, which in itself was not a small accomplishment, since the class of 66 had at least 25% of the students who were on a roll. And so it was
undergraduate school at Howard University as a National Achievement Scholar. He graduated with honors at Howard and moved on to Harvard Law School, where he graduated in 1973. After graduation, he returned to the Washington, D.C. area to do various legal things that lawyers do. He was the legal counsel to the United States Congress on issues involving the District of Columbia for a period of time. And then as an equal employment opportunity, he became a legal counsel to the District of Columbia in all matters involving the U.S. Congress. He has also been the legal counsel for a power industry in the Washington, D.C. area. And he has also done private practice, which is what he's involved with now, and has an office in Puerto Rico and San Juan. So, it is my pleasure to introduce my friend, the valedictorian of the class of 1966, Mr. James Bernard Christian.
Mayor Robinson, head table platform guests, class of 1966, my brothers and sisters, it is humbling for me to stand before you tonight, humbling in so many different ways. First, to have an opportunity to come back home. You don't know what it means to have a home to come to. I shall never forget, Bunkie is my home. And it is certainly an honor and humbling for me to have one of my classmates, Charles, who only would not toot his own horn, but he was in that 25% that made that competition so difficult. No question about it. And I want to thank Charles for that really heartfelt introduction. It was also indicative of the fact that in the class of 66, though 25% within that competitive range, we never begrudged anybody their achievement. We were not jealous of one another. We did not root against each other. We really rooted for one another as we move forward to do the things that were required of us to develop our God-given talents. I am also grateful and humbled by the fact that I have an opportunity to appear before you tonight with the presence of my only living aunt, one of 12 children, and my youngest uncle, my oldest living aunt, Miss Lavinia Williams, and my youngest of the children, brother, Kelsall Williams and his wife, and my oldest living first cousin, also a graduate of Carver High School, Savannah Milton. In addition to that, I also have my #1 Uno brother, Ed Jr., the one who everybody chased after they passed over me. It is no small feat to stand here before that great support company, and I'm heartened by it because if you don't like what I say, at least I have family to take me home. So I want to share with you a list of reflections as well as some heartfelt thoughts that I have wrestled with and have labored to shape into what I hope will be some takeaway items that we both will leave here emblazoned on our hearts to do even greater things. It is no small measure that I recall 32 years ago that I was given the honor also of delivering the first annual all-class reunion banquet address in the Carver High School auditorium 32 years ago. And I had to call home to confirm that date. And you know, when your children really have gone past the point of being worried about what you think, my daughter said to me, "Well, old man, you really are old." And I said, "Baby, just keep living, and you'll get here too." I am particularly honored by that linkage that I stand before you now 32 years later to speak again. Hopefully not to repeat that which I said 32 years ago, because I can't find the speech and I can't remember what I said. But between that time and now and that banquet, what a world of change has taken place in our lives in these United States, and the world has taken place in so many different forms, changes that really are shocking and too really involved for us to put our arms around it. And 32 years ago, I didn't have a cell phone. There was no cell phone. I could pretend that I didn't want to be bothered because nobody couldn't check me out on Twitter and Facebook. There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook. Those are just some examples of the lightning change which has taken place over these last 32 years. And in addition, all of us were, ladies, who close your ears, a little thinner then. We moved a little faster then, and we stayed up a little longer then, and we didn't fall asleep in the middle of the movies on the couch in the den then. But we thank God Almighty for His grace and His mercy that we are still here in the land of the living, clothed mostly in our right mind, and know that we are still in the land of the living. I'm also humbled by this invitation to address you tonight because this reunion occasion has been indicated is the celebration of the 50-year reunion of the great Carver High School class of 1966. Amazingly, 50 years ago, we walked across the stage in the Carver Gymnasium and received our diplomas as the keys to achieving whatever God had in life store for us. And now I would ask all of my fellow Carver High School classmates in this our 5th reunion to stand once again and receive a deserved round of applause. All the members of the class of 1966, please. The best class that ever graduated from Carver. On an even more personal note, I am very mindful tonight that this is also the 50th anniversary of the graduation of of our mother from high school. Because in the same year that I graduated, Mom received her GED and finished high school. I hasten to add that I am absolutely proud and grateful to Carver for providing me with the first-class education preparation, which I could use to attend any of the best colleges and universities in the world and stand toe-to-toe and class to class when any other high school graduate, no matter from whatever high school they graduated from anywhere in the world, bar none. We were prepared at Carver to do that. When we left Carver, we were more than well prepared to face the challenges of obtaining a college education, for we had been prepared by the most dedicated and the most committed faculty of teachers that could ever be assembled in any high school. They had our welfare and our future well-being as a central basis and reason for their coming to Carver each and every day to impart to us their knowledge and their wisdom. And for that, all of us, and I know I am, eternally grateful and forever indebted to each and every one of them. Now, having justifiably and rightly paid homage to and given thanks to those who in large measure made our presence here tonight for this celebration possible, I want to now turn to my assignment this evening. And I must confess to you that after receiving the invitation to address you tonight from Ms. Cherry Ann Callahan, I began thinking about how I would address the theme of this reunion, later outlined my thoughts, and much later began drafting them almost to completion. But as tragic and totally unacceptable recent events happened first in Baton Rouge, and then in Minnesota, and then in Dallas, I was forced the fact that I could not come here tonight and talk about celebrating without in some way addressing those events, while at the same time not letting the fact of those events completely overshare the real truth that we still do have so much to celebrate with pride. Thus, I begin differently tonight from what I originally intended, because I admit to you, my brothers and sisters, that what happened in Baton Rouge and Minnesota and Dallas is inextricably linked, intertwined, if you will, and inseparable from that which we can still celebrate. One is not in conflict with the other, but each informs and supports the other, and both are instructive for all of our futures. What then am I trying to say, you might ask? Great question. I'm glad you asked. As I view it, my brothers and sisters, America now stands at a crossroad of whither shall we go as a nation. For the nation's legacy of slavery is still a deep wound which, though treated for the last 2 centuries, with various treatments of conscience and laws and programs, is still not completely healed. It is still a sore deep down in the fabric of our society, like threatening pus, if you will, from a sore which must yet be cleaned completely out and disinfected, or it will forever continue to raise its ugly head and continually poison our relationships and our living together as a nation of diversity.
with red, white, black, brown, yellow, and mixed colored peoples struggling to overcome the past and living together as one people, as Americans. My brothers and sisters, we are a nation divided against itself now. And we as Black Americans are once again having our very existence threatened by the deep-seated racism of some misguided persons among us who feel and firmly believe that their position of privilege and hegemony over everything is threatened with extinction, and the quote, unquote, minorities are taken over, and therefore they must take their country back. Now, some of them, feeling that way, are led by Exhibit A, racist number 1, Donald Quack, the Trump. Have no doubt, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, a very liberal lifelong Democrat. I confess that, and I'm very proud of that fact. Have no doubt, Donald Quack, the Trump, is a racist. Donald Quack, the Trump, is a narcissist. He loves himself more than anything else in the world. Donald Quack, the Trump, is a bigot. Donald Quack, the Trump, is a xenophobe. He hates foreigners, even though both of his wives, one the previous one and the current one, are both immigrants from foreign countries. Donald Quack, the Trump, is a homophobe, for he will eliminate people who have and struggle with their own sexual identity. And Donald Quack, the Trump, must be stopped from becoming the next president of the United States. Make no mistake, and have no doubt, that life for us with him as president would be pure, unadulterated hell. The nerve of his kind and him having the audacity and the unmitigated gall to say that they are going to take their country back. Well, you can't take back that which you never had a right to have in the first place. We, as a people, built this country, and moreover, the only possible race that could dare assert that they are taking their country back are brothers and sisters, the Native Americans, who are derogatorily called American Indians. All the land claimed as theirs by others today was rightfully claimed and can still be claimed by them as theirs. They, like us, were subjugated, stripped of their culture, relegated to less than human status, and forced to serve the will and the agendas of quote-unquote European immigrants who were, if you will, of a different hue. And even today, and even after a civil war, which was to end the dastardly scourge of slavery and subjugation, and even after the dismantling of the denigration of legal segregation in Jim Crow, and after the painful fighting of the damage of misguided integration masquerading as desegregation, we in 2016 still have a Minnesota and Baton Rouge. My brothers and sisters, we have a problem. A deep-seated problem which 7 years ago, I, like you, prayed had at least been slowed in its tracks. For 7 years ago, we were all swept up in the euphoria of having elected us the first black president of these United States. And though we had not reached the promised land, it at least seemed as if we were on the right road to get there. But the euphoria was short-lived as racism began to once again raise its ugly head with more frequency. And the man who I can say without fear of contradiction is and will be fairly judged by history as the greatest president this nation has ever elected, Barack Hussein Obama, was confronted and disrespected as if he was just another field hand by those who would not believe that a black man was now the president of the United States and the leader of the free world. It was for many of them, not all of them, unthinkable and unacceptable. But if they had truly had any sense, they would have been smart to accept it and simply say, well, you know he's had it right. But no, they could not see his part blackness. But even before Minnesota and Baton Rouge, we had Trayvon Martin and Ferguson and countless other unreported overt acts of criminal execution of black men, and even the audacious calling out of our own president as a liar on the very floor of the United States Congress itself. My brothers and sisters, we still have a problem. And as I stand before you tonight, we as a people are being tested, possibly beyond measure and like never before, to be the key foundation for the solution to that problem, while not willingly or otherwise accepting the fact that some among us still want to make us victims of the problem. We cannot allow races to put us in the false trap and portray us to the world as being anti-police or anti-law and order. My son is a member of the District of Columbia Metropolitan Police Department. I cannot be anti-police. For truly, the real problem we face is not all police, but racist police. The real problem we face is not law, but law and order enforced, practiced, and carried out in a racist manner. We as a people have the answer for both. Eliminate the racist police and stop the racist and discriminatory practice and enforcement of law and order. That is the answer. We as a people are truly loving and forgiving. No other race of people on the face of the earth is better at it than we are, and have been forced to demonstrate it over and over and over again. So we must now refuse, dare I say, we are compelled to not allow or accept any effort to demonize us or characterize us as thugs or threats to the larger society. Quite the contrary is true. For even with our own internal problems of black-on-black crime, we respect authority and honor and respect non-racist police officers. We cannot, must not, and will not allow racists like Donald the Quack Trump and his kind to achieve their racist agenda. I could not be more proud of President Barack Hussein Obama, as he has wrestled and continued to wrestle with the struggles and vestiges of slavery, the evil forces of racism, saving America and the world from financial and economic ruin and collapse, and at the same time, boldly, beautifully serving as a role model father and a role model husband. I can think of no other example more beautiful than what he has provided. It is my good fortune, this little boy from Bunkie, Louisiana, to have had the opportunity to meet him 3 times. The first time I met him was when I was serving on the board of the National Health Association. He came to us as a senator from the state of Illinois, and he laid out for us his health care plan. It was a disaster. I was unimpressed. I said he wants to be president, but he can't really say what he really wants to do for health care. 1 year later, he came back to the same group as President of the United States and delivered a plan that he got adopted to provide health care for all Americans in the United States. That second time, I also said to him, Mr. President, you got this done. I ask only one thing. Stay cool. Stay cool. And he looked back and said, bro, I know you got my back. At that point, he was not the president, but a brother. My last encounter was I had the good fortune to be invited to escort one of the senior elders of our church to the White House Christmas party. This senior elder had a son who is the makeup artist for Michelle Obama. And Michelle and First Lady Michelle Obama, excuse me, asked Derek Rutledge to invite his mother to the White House to meet the First Lady's mother. And she came to me and said, Brother Christian, I'm single and I need somebody who I respect to escort me to the White House and not worry about them talking about that. That got me into the Christmas party with the President and the First Lady, and one of the proudest pictures I have in my office, which nobody is allowed to touch, is a signed autograph picture of me, Mrs. Rutledge, and the President and the First Lady. But that is a cherished artifact. As a people, my brothers and sisters, we must come together and save America from itself, just like we as a people helped build the country. We, I am convinced, must show America how to address and eliminate the unjustified fears born in racism, while at the same time having those who would play on those fears recognize and accept that there is a new day in America when we will not continue to accept relegation to second-class citizenship and the killing of our people. Enough. Enough is enough. We must chart a new course and live together as Christian brothers and sisters, respecting each other's God-given rights as children of God, to live together in dignity and in peace. We as a people cannot accept anything less. from the recesses of my Carver and Second Union Baptist Church shaped heart, permit me now, if you will, to share with you tonight what I've been asked to address. Namely, this year's all-class reunion theme. So if you would now, take the hand of your seatmate, look them in the eye, and repeat after me. Tonight, James is going to speak to us about celebrating our legacy with pride. Don't forget it. Do something. I could not think of a better place to start than to pose and answer the most fundamental question. What is this legacy that we are supposed to be celebrating with pride? Of what is it made? Where did it come from? Who shaped it? Who and what defined it? Is it bricks and mortar? Is it a collection of books and papers? Or of now nowhere to be found band uniforms and musical instruments, or a collection simply of athletic trophies? Respectfully, and without fear of contradiction, I dare say to you the legacy we celebrate tonight is really none of these. Though each may be regarded as playing some part in its creation, its thriving, and its sustaining, and its shaping who and what all of us who graduated from Bunkie and Carver High are today. I submit to you that the legacy we celebrate with pride tonight is our God-ordained and blessed quest and yearning to overcome all obstacles placed in our path and become the very best that God created us to be. That is the legacy. That is the legacy. This is our legacy, meaning that Bunkie Colored and Carver High School were not just a physical plant in which we were to obtain an education, but it was far more. For both Bunkie Colored and Carver were a state of mind, a way of thinking, a quest to achieve, a desire to be better, and a refusal to accept that we were any less than anybody on the face of the globe, no matter who they were or where they might be from. That is the legacy. For us, the legacy was our very way of living and defining for ourselves who we were and what was our value. No one could put a price on it. No one could stand in our way, and no one could put a ceiling on his height or determine the floor of his depth. That, my brothers and sisters, is the legacy we celebrate with pride. And that legacy did just not spring up overnight or happen just by accident. For it, in all its unchallengeable truth, it is grounded in and has its source in a far deeper and larger legacy. A legacy of a brilliant people snatched from their homeland, where princes and queens and kings reigned in organized and greatly thriving civilization, while some other folks were still living in caves and running around trees. We take great pride in the fact that no one on earth has a greater heritage or ancestry than we do. We are the present-day descendants of kings and queens, great warriors and statesmen, with a history of being responsible for life and world-changing events. For it has been well established beyond any reasonable doubt that our very being as human beings is sourced in the motherland, where God chose to begin human life itself. Newsflash: the Garden of Eden is in the motherland. No other members of the human race can rightfully claim this distinction. Our legacy had its source in an unquenchable desire of our ancestors, who were snatched people, who even in slavery persevered, rose above their subjugated circumstances, and helped build a nation in spite of everything deadly thrown in their way. They still rose, and we, their descendants, to survive even to this day. For our Carver and Bunkie colored legacy is grounded in and has been nurtured by those who can be recounted, and we recount by a roll call, which we take great pride in announcing to the world. Namely, if you show me Elvis Presley, I'll show you James Brown. If you show me Hillary Clinton, I'll show you Shirley Chisholm. If you show me F. Lee Bailey, I'll show you Johnny Cochran. If you show me Lawrence Welk, I'll show you Duke Ellington. If you show me Phyllis Diller, I'll show you Oprah Winfrey. If you show me Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren, I'll show you Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. If you show me Rembrandt, I'll show you Romare Bearden or Irving Douglas. If you show me Babe Ruth, I'll show you Jackie Robinson. If you show me Elizabeth Browning, I'll show you Maya Angelou. Show me Senator Long, and I will show you Representative Millard. Show me Paul Newman, and I'll show you Denzel Washington. If you show me Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll show you Governor L. Douglas Wilder, the first black governor of Virginia. If you show me General Davis Petraeus, I'll show you General Colin Powell, the first black chief of staff of the United States Armed Forces. If you show me Jack Nicklaus, I'll show you Tiger Woods. If you show me Senator Edward Kennedy, I'll show you Senator Edward Brooke. If you show me Jack Dempsey, I'll show you Muhammad Ali. If you show me Sophocles, I'll show you W.E.B. Du Bois. If you show me the Archbishop of Canterbury, I'll show you Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Reverend Dr. T.D. Jakes. If you show me Dag Hammarskjöld, I'll show you Ralph Bunche, the first black Secretary General of the United Nations. If you show me George Washington, I'll show you Nelson Mandela. If you show me the Archbishop of Canterbury, I'll show you Bishop Desmond Tutu. If you show me John Fitzgerald Kennedy, I'll show you Barack Hussein. Each and every one of these remarkable members of our race has not or did not let anyone define or shape a legacy for them, or put a ceiling on what they wanted or could achieve. The Bunkie colored and Carver legacy is not only the continuing expression of the will and determination of the lives such as these that I've just listed, but it is also sourced in the undeniable contributions of our teachers at Bunkie Colored and Carver, who, as I said, were a brilliant collection of dedicated educators who were committed first and foremost to our personal welfare, our achieving the highest goals, and our being well prepared and equipped to face any challenges of life. We are the living testimony of both the determination exhibited by the litany of the remarkable Black Americans I've listed and our dedicated Bunkie Colored and Carver faculty. But my brothers and sisters, lest you be tempted to rest on your laurels, defining the legacy is only the beginning. Defining the legacy is only the beginning. For I respectfully submit to you that more is required of us than simply arriving at a definition of what is the legacy. And thus, my addition that I asked you to utter tonight, don't forget it. Do something. And the first thing we must do is pass on and instill into each and every black boy and girl with whom we have the opportunity to be in contact what the legacy means. I know this requires more from many of you than you are prepared now to give. Because you feel, James, their butts are just too sassy. They're too grown. They don't listen to anybody. They're out of control. Their parents don't care. So why should I? My God, there are babies having babies. No wonder we're going to hell. You name it, and we all know it. But if not us, then who? If not us, then who? If not now, then when? These so-labeled wayward children are still all of our collective responsibility. These still now are our collective responsibility. Doing something with the legacy requires us to pass it on, or we will suffer the consequences of not doing so, as we are already suffering, and it will get worse. Trust me. I promise you. We must pass on this God-ordained and blessed quest and yearning to overcome all the obstacles of life and become the very best that God created us to be, the real legacy, to those who are with us now and for future generations. We must pass it on with passion. We must not just pay lip service to it, or just celebrate the fact that we had it and then just walk away. If we do, the legacy will surely die. If we do, the legacy will surely die. As keepers of the legacy, we must commit ourselves to encouraging and helping this generation and future generations to explore and discover their God-given hidden talents and gifts, and to pursue them to the highest level without fear or crippling doubt. That was our experience at Bunkie Colored and Carver High School. There were no limits on our dreams or our talents. But too many in this present generation are limited in their vision of the possible and are not moved away from the limitation by having someone take the time with them to shape their dreams and their talents beyond what they can see or dream. We have the responsibility to encourage them to let no one put a ceiling on what they can achieve, just as we were encouraged at Bunkie Colored and Carver High. There were no boundaries or walls closing in our minds, our hopes, our talents, our gifts, or our dreams. This we, as keepers of the dream, must nurture, and encourage, and push to the forefront of these slowly and preciously developing lives. In so doing, the legacy will be expanded and reach even greater higher heights than ever before. Who knows what will happen? Who knows what greatness might be unleashed and what great contribution will be made to the world with such a vigorous and ambitious legacy-building focus and commitment. We will have only ourselves to blame if we do not further and help unleash further greatness and do not encourage greater possibilities among this generation and future generations. But even more tragically, we will be guilty of betraying the legacy by failing to act, by failing to encourage, by failing to help this generation and future generations to discover and develop their hidden talents and gifts. Certainly none of us here tonight want to shoulder and bear that burden. We cannot. Not only must we with passion pass on and instill the legacy in the current and future generations, we must insist that this current generation discover and develop their hidden talents and gifts as part of our further building of the legacy. We must also be actively involved in making the legacy a reality in their lives and letting them know that one person can make a difference. Our legacy is not a static bump on the wall or a stand back attitude and look at how great I am. I made it, I got mine, now it's yours to get. The Bunkie, Colored, and Carver legacy was truly an outpouring of genuine concern of our teachers for the personal welfare of all of us. They made innumerable sacrifices, endured slights and discrimination, had little or no resources, yet persevered every day to make a difference in our lives. All of us with whom they had the responsibility for teaching. They went the extra mile. We must rekindle that genuine involvement in this generation and in the lives of our own children and invest in their future success. A legacy without concrete works which makes a difference is absolutely useless. I have not given enough attention to the legacy. And many of you here tonight, truth be told, are also guilty of not giving enough attention to the legacy, though there are some among us who have. Your attendance at this banquet every 2 years without more does not give you a free pass or absolve you from the sin and guilt of not giving enough attention to the legacy. We as a reunion group, we as a people, we as the beneficiaries of the legacy that we celebrate tonight must do more for those who are still laboring here in Bunkie, Louisiana. We here in Bunkie, and usually I say we, are not producing enough National Honor Society students. We here in Bunkie are not producing enough national achievement or national merit scholars or valedictorians or salutatorians or real student leaders as part of continuing to build the legacy. And we must now do something about that fact, along with providing or opening the doors for more resources to available to those who are now following us. In that vein, and without consulting with my classmates who do not know what I'm about to say, I want to announce and put a challenge. Starting with myself. I want to announce the establishment of a college entrance book award program for the highest average L graduating Black American student graduating from the local high school in the sum of $500 a year to do nothing but buy books in the freshman year. And I'm starting that off with the challenge that I will meet dollar for dollar the first $2,500 of the challenge. Therefore, we would raise $5,000 by my classmates and others matching my first $2,500. That would set us up to give those grant awards for the next 10 years. Simple math. 10 times 500 is 5,000. In addition to that, I want to kick it up to 10,000. Therefore, we'll be doing it for the next 20 years. And my classmates, we have talked about doing things that we have not really discussed this one, so I apologize. But I'm still issuing the challenge. We, the class of 1966, will establish this book award grant starting tonight. Before we leave, we are going to start it tonight. In addition to this, I must hasten, and I know I'm over you now, I'm eating and you're about going to sleep. We not only must do this as furthering the legacy, but we must be involved in the lives of these children. We must encourage them to do things that they don't now feel they even need to attempt to do. We must inspire in them the fact that they, as one, can make a difference. One person can make a difference. And there are many examples of this. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Fannie Lou Hamer, Nelson Mandela, Thurgood Marshall, Harriet Tubman, and Ralph Bunche each made a difference as a single individual. They shaped, changed, or made history. And if you think about it, George W. Bush was elected the President of the United States for the first time. Hear me now. By the vote and commitment of one person. Now, I know you say, what are you talking about? You must be crazy. If you remember the election between George W. Bush and Al Gore, hung on a hanging chad in the state of Florida. The election was challenged and sent to the Supreme Court of the United States. And the decision of the Supreme Court of the United States would determine the outcome of the election. After the presentation of the lawyers on both sides were done, the court was split 4-4. One vote was outstanding. Yes. What one person made the difference and delivered to us, George W. Bush. One man, so-called black Clarence Carver. Don't ever tell me that one person cannot make a difference. We shall forever live with that legacy. Hastening on. Now, if you have been awake And now touch your neighbor and say, wake up, James is about through. All right? Now, as I said in the middleweight, you should have noticed that I've indicated that we celebrate the legacy with pride by first understanding what that legacy is. Second, by sharing it passionately with this and future generations. Third, by encouraging and helping this and future generations to explore their God-given talents and gifts. Fourth, by committing to and helping to make the legacy a reality in their lives. But when all of that is said and done, and it's all added up, I am thoroughly convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that the most important thing, the most critical thing we can do, along with all these others, in celebrating the legacy with pride, is to ensure that this generation and all future generations know and understand that there is no legacy worth celebrating if it is not rooted and grounded in serving the true and living God. I say it again. The most critical and most important thing we can do in celebrating the legacy with pride is to ensure that this generation and all future generations know and understand that there is no legacy worth celebrating if it is not rooted and grounded in serving the living God. Nothing else even comes close or is more important than our doing that. It is our sacred duty to do so. For it is in our worshiping and serving God that any legacy worth celebrating is even made possible. Without the Almighty God that we serve, no legacy is possible. The Bunkie and Carver legacy is rooted and grounded in this immutable truth. Everything we did at Bunkie and at Carver had somewhere in its foundation, at its core, as has been alluded to tonight, and its reason for being done in service to and recognition that there was a God. Oh, if only that were the case today in schooling and the building of the legacy today. We must have and impart what I term a moral compass, a moral epicenter through which all of our efforts must pass. And this is the channel through which we must preserve the legacy. My brothers and sisters, I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that but for a loving and merciful God, I would not be what I am today and enjoying the life that I am enjoying. If it were not for a merciful and loving God, I would not be standing before you today. I was supposed to be a statistic. I was supposed to be an accident. I was not supposed to rise above the level of my circumstance. But I am a living witness, and all of the members of the class of 66 and all of you assembled today has put that to be alive. For with a merciful God, we are here tonight. We are sharing in the legacy of tonight. Who but a merciful and loving God could have brought us through all that which we have had to endure while building the Bunkie and Carver legacy and beyond? Who but a loving and merciful God could have kept us as a people in a strange land to overcome all the adversity that we've had to overcome and still be sane in our right minds and functioning as children of God. This we have a sacred obligation to share and insist that this and future generations recognize and live by as they pursue building on this great Bunkie, Carver, and Carver High legacy. Yes, we must always know the definition of the legacy. We must pass on the legacy with passion. We must encourage and help others to explore their God-given talents and gifts. We must actively be involved in their lives and insist that they know that one person can make a difference. And above all, we must insist that they know and understand that there is no legacy worth celebrating, no legacy worth pursuing if it is not rooted and grounded in serving a true and living God. If we do this, then and only then will we know and share the fact that the legacy will and is worthy of surviving. My brothers and sisters, God bless you and continue to bless one and each one. Thank you.
A soldier's job isn't finished after an 8-hour day or a 40-hour week. A soldier is always a soldier, even while he sleeps. A soldier serves his country first, and his life is left behind. A soldier has to sacrifice what comes first in a civilian's mind. If you are a civilian, I am saying this to you. Next time you see a soldier, remember what they do. A soldier is a reason our land is home of the free. A soldier is the one that is bravely protecting you and me. If you are a soldier, or rather were a soldier, I am saying this to you. Thank God for every soldier. Thank God for what you did. Thank God, and God bless America. At this time, we would like to honor our soldiers, or our veterans, by giving them a small tribute. And this tribute comes from, a small token. It comes from our hearts. From the Army, we have represented Mr. Joshua Nichols, and as we call your name, we're asking that you come forward and please stay up here until we've called all of our veterans up. Mr. Jesse Drummer, Mr. Cal Wycliffe, Doris and Betty Rose, would you please come forward and help Cherry? Mr. Willie Lewis Jr., and I don't think he's present. Mr. Arthur Searcy, Mr. Albert Scobie, Mr. Harold Rito, Warren Patterson Sr., Curtis Alfred, Roger Tejada, Alfred, Henry Fulton, Donald Baptiste, John Horn Jr., John Drummer, Donald Washington, and Joe Meyer. From the Air Force, we have Felton Alfred, Donald Frazier, Lloyd Triplett, William Frazier, Robert Nat Frazier, Brenda Calgary, Robert Morgan, and Edward Christian. Navy, we have represented Ms. Ruby Washington, Mr. Jesse Drummer, and Mr. Daniel King. That's you too. And Mr. Charles Warner. U.S. Marine, we have James Butler. Let's give our veterans a big round of